A judge now says minors need parental permission to even get on birth control. Hence the Trojan's statement a minute ago. US District Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, an appointee of former President Trump, ruled that minors should be required to seek parental consent to get birth control because parents have a fundamental right to control and direct the upbringing of their minor children. Already in the state of Texas, minors nearly always have to obtain parental consent to get birth control. Title X clinics are the only exception to this, as they aren't allowed to require parental permission or notify parents about minors getting birth control. Title X is a federal program that offers cost-free and confidential contraception to anyone regardless of age or income. The state has just 176 Title X clinics, however, serving its 254 counties, and teens without access to a car or money to travel to them may struggle to access them. This decision from the district court was prompted by a lawsuit from Alexander Deanda, a father of 3 whose complaint says he's raising each of his daughters in accordance with Christian teaching on matters of sexuality, which requires unmarried children to practice abstinence and refrain from sexual intercourse until marriage. Well, good for you and your Bible. Good for you and your decision to raise your children a particular religious way based on a book written thousands of years ago. That's your right to do. What's not your right is to pass laws to make your religion and your religious beliefs the barometer and the guidepost for all of us. That's why this country has a separation of church and state, despite what lawmakers on the right are trying to bring us toward these days. You don't get to do that. That's not your purview. Stay in your lane. You want to raise your daughters a certain way, raise them that way, and see if once they're aware of the freedom that this country grants to its citizens, if you still have that control over them or not. Do you, give it your best shot, but keep it within the confines of your own family, not across this nation. Nan Whaley, Director of External Affairs, the Texas-based youth reproductive justice group, Jane's Due Process, or JDP, said the district court ruling violates young people's self-determination and bodily autonomy. Damn right it does. At a time when, quote, the demand for birth control skyrocketed amongst young people in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe versus Wade. Kacsmaryk's ruling hasn't yet taken effect, as he didn't issue an injunction to immediately prohibit all minors from getting birth control without parental permission. Per the Texas Tribune, his ruling is expected to be challenged. If you live in Texas, my advice, stock up, get it quick. You never know what's gonna happen. You never know what's gonna happen in the country these days when our laws and our rights are being adjusted, restricted, pulled back, taken away at every corner, at every turn. When you still have a freedom, take advantage of it. Jackson White.
Yeah, well, so first of all, people who set these types of preferences, or people who want to ban pornography and stuff like that, it's like, it's really just a reflection of people just having unhealthy relationships with themselves and unhealthy sex lives and whatever that means, because pretending like human beings aren't sexual creatures is ridiculous. Pretending like I have full mastery over my urges. No, you don't. And again, it's like thinking about children and what they may do. Why are you thinking so much about how young teenagers' sex lives, first and foremost? But that aside, obviously we know that this type of approach simply doesn't work. People have sex, and therefore we should be encouraging them to do it safely. We should be encouraging them to learn about how it works, to know who they're sleeping with, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, obviously we know that this would just lead to more pregnancies, more STDs, and what have you. On top of, for the most part, and if you're 17, 18, who cares how old you are? May not be any of your parents' business. What if you don't have a good relationship with them in the first place? I mean, I still don't necessarily just openly talk about my sex life with my parents. I'm 30 years old, so it's just clearly it's an overreach. And, like you said, that's great that you want to raise your daughter or your son in a certain type of way. That's great that your religious doctrine is written in a certain type of way, but we're sexual creatures. And so we need to treat ourselves as such.
And Jackson, as a man slightly older than you, let me just say, I don't know that you ever need to get to the place where you're openly talking about your sex life with your parents.
Yeah, I agree.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.